Last week, I made a trip to Savannah, Georgia, for my son's best friend's wedding. And on the way to Savannah, on the plane, I got out my laptop and I connected to the Wi-Fi, and I was scrolling through the movies that they offered for free, and I come down and there's the movie Forrest Gump. So I'm watching the movie on the screen, and during the movie, my wife taps me on my arm, and she hands me her phone. And I look at the phone, and it says, Savannah, Georgia, top 10 tourist attractions, the park where Forrest Gump was filmed. So she said, did you know that it was in Savannah? I said, I had no idea. She said, well, we're going there. She said, you should go to the park. And I said, how far is it from where we're going to be? And she looked, she said, 5 minutes. I said, okay, when we get in town, before the wedding and the festivities, we had a full book schedule. I said, I'd like to go to that park. So we arrive in Savannah, Georgia. It's 100 degrees with 90% humidity. It's so hot. 4 or 5 showers a day, you walk outside, you're soaked. So we get on a trolley and we make our way down to this park with the family. Everybody's dying. So we get to the park where they filmed the story, Forrest Gump, and I said, I just want to sit on the bench and spend some time reflecting about Forrest's story. They all left me to sit there. So I'm sitting on the bench in the park in Savannah, Georgia, where Tom Hanks filmed the movie Forrest Gump. And I'm thinking about his story in my mind and how he narrated it from that bench. How many people have seen the movie Forrest Gump? Do you remember? I know it's been a long time ago. I figured based on the graphic. So I'm reliving the story in my mind, and I'm thinking about how the movie opened and how Forrest was at the doctor with his mom, and the doctor was putting him in leg braces. And the doctor says to her that his back is crooked, and that's the reason that he has to wear these leg braces. So, story on a little further, and you have Forrest and his best friend Ginny walking home from school, and the bullies come to pick on Forrest and make fun of him because he's wearing leg braces and he's disabled. So Forrest is getting dirt thrown at him from the bullies, and he's getting yelled at, and they're chasing him on their bikes, and Ginny, his best friend, says, run, Forrest, run. That's the major plot or part of the movie that everybody remembers. If you haven't seen the movie, you know it. You've heard the phrase, run, Forrest, run. So Forrest is running down the driveway to get away from these bullies who are picking on him. So the reason this story is so meaningful to me, and the reason it touches my heart, is when I was 3 years old, I wore leg braces just like Forrest. I don't remember wearing these, but these are what I wore. And the reason I wore them was because my back was crooked. I didn't know at the time that they were going to write a movie about my life. No, I'm just kidding. But it is just practically all the adventures he's been on are crazy. Now I like the leg braces. I didn't before. So I had physical disabilities from 3 to about 15, from a crooked back and all kinds of ailments that came with being physically disabled. And when I was 15 years old, I was finally diagnosed with a condition which is called Schumann's kyphosis, which basically is like scoliosis, which most people are familiar with, but probably have never heard of Schumann's kyphosis. Scoliosis, they would test you for in school. That's how I found out I had scoliosis, because the nurses in my elementary school tested me and said I had scoliosis, which made sense since I had wore the leg braces and I had had the spine issue. Schumann's kyphosis is much more severe. Scoliosis is a 45-degree curvature. Scoliosis is a 45. Schumann's kyphosis is a 90. So once it's at its severity, you are hunched over severely. So we knew that I was eventually going to have surgery, and we knew I was going to have complications from this, but they don't want to do the surgery early on because it stunts your growth. Once you have the surgery, then you're whatever size you were when you had the surgery. So when I was 15, that's when my life changed forever. I went to Los Angeles Children's Hospital with my parents to meet a specialist who was world-renowned, who had performed this surgery before in Europe. That was 30 plus years ago, so it's very different back then. And he did a bunch more tests and checked me, and he said, you have to have immediate surgery. Your curvature is already putting so much pressure on your lungs that they're collapsing. Eventually, it's going to puncture a lung, and you won't survive. So, of course, on top of everything else I'd been diagnosed with, that was devastating news for myself and my family. So he immediately sent us to Loma Linda Children's Hospital in Loma Linda, which is close to where I live, and they performed emergency surgery. So I think I was at 15 and a half at the time. So the surgery was, they cut my back open from the back of my neck, top of my neck, all the way down to my rear end. The entire back got cut open, and they exposed my spine. And in your spine, you have all those little indentions, the little triangles. They took portions of my lower ribs out. They took that bone, put inserts in, and they cut up all those little pieces of bone, and they fused that bone in each one of those spots in my vertebrae to form one solid spine. That was 11 days in ICU, 31 days in the hospital, 9 months in a full body cast at 15 and a half. So after the surgery, because I was in the hospital so long, my family had to stay there to take care of me. So I remember my dad would come in the morning. He owned his own business and had to run that, so he couldn't take off work. He would come in the morning. My mom had took a leave of absence from work. He would stay with me until my mom got there. We'd have coffee and talk. It was 1991 Desert Storm. So all I got to watch all day, every day in the hospital for a month was Desert Storm, so I remember it very well. So him and I would watch Desert Storm, and we would talk, and then my mom would show up, and she would stay with me for the day, and then my dad would get off work, and he'd come back to the hospital, and he'd stay with me till I went to sleep, and then he'd leave, and we repeated that over and over again every day for a month, so they could be with me. And then I was released from the hospital, and when I was released from the hospital, I had the cast. And the cast basically was from my neck down. I was fully cast, so I couldn't move any part of my body. They inserted 2 metal rods that they clipped at the top of each one of my shoulders down to the bottom of my hips. I still have those rods today. I have 2 of them in here. And that was to support my body and hold me up until the spine healed. Then once the spine healed, then I could have had the rods removed. I chose to leave them in. But it took a long time for that healing, that large bone to heal. So I was casted from top to bottom. And I remember the cast. It was like a cast you'd wear on your arm or your leg, but it was full body. So they casted my body they casted my body with the spine, and then they cut it down the side. And I remember it had big metal buckles all the way down it that secured it. So when they put it on me, they would latch it down. And there was foam in there, and then it would be on my body. So for 9 months, I was in that full body cast. I was home. I couldn't move anything but my head. And then as I progressively got better, then the cast could come off. And I remember in the evening time for bed, they would roll me out of the cast, and I would lay in bed, and then I was stuck there in bed. And then in the morning, they'd roll me back in the cast, and then I could get up and get out of bed. So I did that from January to August. So I became very dependent on people because I had to rely on somebody to do everything for me. I couldn't do anything when I was in bed or when I was around. So my parents really took care of me then. I made notes just so I don't forget. I had to have physical therapy to learn how to walk again because being debilitated for that long, you can't just get up and start walking. So I had therapy every day, and I was homeschooled. So I wasn't at school, but I could see my friends, and people could come over. And I remember it was summertime. The cast was very hot. It was very heavy. If you've had your arm or leg casted, you know what a cast feels like. Imagine it in your entire body. And I don't remember any of my friends specifically picking on me, but I remember them telling other people, and I remember people talking about this cast that I had and the condition that I was in, which for being in 9th grade, that was a horrible situation. So it was very traumatic back then what I had to go through having a disability. Looking back on it now, 30 years later, I didn't realize till I started telling my story publicly and watching the movie Forrest Gump and reliving it, that I think my story and the things that happened to me actually set my life stage for today because it made me very empathetic of people who have disabilities. People who can't take care of themselves, people who depends on others. My company, Mountain View Services Incorporated, we provide food and medical supplies to about 500 homes for developmentally disabled adults and children. We've been doing that for 35 years. And so every day my life has been going in and taking care of people who have disabilities. And I do charity work, Ronald McDonald House, should I get on my thing? And my American Heart Association. This is my 20th year on the board of directors for Ronald McDonald House. They were not at Loma Linda Children's Hospital when I was there. but I know what those kids go through when their family can't be there to take care of them. So I started volunteering for the Ron McDonald House so I could give back to those who were going through what I was going through with their family there. So now I realize that that whole entire horrible part of my life set me up for where I am today and put me in a position where I could take care of others and help others. And I have empathy for people with disabilities, and that it was my life's work. And I didn't realize it till I started telling the story recently that my entire life's work had been with developmentally disabled adults and children, which is really amazing. So today, honestly, I feel like Forrest Gump running down that long driveway with the leg braces falling off of his knees, and it set the course for the rest of my life. And I just want you to remember, you don't know when you see somebody what sort of disability they have. It could be physical or it could be mental. We all have some sort of disability, but you may not see it. You wouldn't see me today and know that I have 2 big metal rods in my back and that I had that traumatic surgery and that, I mean, I can't touch my toes, but short of that, I can do everything else. So please be empathetic to people who are disabled or that you don't realize have a disability and what they've been through, because you can't just look at somebody and see they're disabled. You wouldn't know that. So thank you.